So we back to talk about parenthood through the pandemic. COVID-19 has put a lot of pressure on people, and in particular, it has put a lot of pressure on parents to, especially those like us who had to work from home and also had a toddler at home with us. you know,
Fun times.
fun times. So what was challenging about it in particular for us is that our daughter is 3 now. So we're talking, she spent 2/3 of her life through this at this point. So she wasn't even 2 years old when this all started.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about stages of someone that young. There's a lot of dramatic changes happening. We're talking walking, talking, knowing your numbers and letters,
Potty training.
potty training. It's been a lot while you're working from home
Yes.
and many other things that we had to deal with, for me I had a car accident, I had some other issues,
Dealing with the loss of very close relatives.
yeah, for sure. So but through it all, we had each other, and we're still here doing well, thriving, and we got to be thankful for that.
Job loss as well.
Job loss, oh yes, job loss. So
And
yeah,
new career opportunities, right? So
yeah.
we've experienced a lot over the past 2 years, and we want to share a little bit about what that has been like.
So yeah, I guess when it all started, like I said, she was very young, and it just seemed like it's sudden. It was March 2020, very sudden, and we just said our job said, "Hey, don't come back in the office." It was March 13th. I remember the day because the same day I left the office for the last time was the same day I got into a car accident. So I was on my way home and got into a car accident that same day. So I can never forget it. It was a Thursday at that.
Wow.
I believe it was Thursday. Maybe I'm forgetting, but I think it was. So yeah, it was tough because for me personally, I went from being very active in the gym. For those who don't know, I'm a boxing trainer, and a martial artist. So, being very active in the gym and, working out, even outside the gym, going to the park, doing stuff, to really kind of sitting around from a work perspective as well as a physical activity perspective. So, it was definitely rough to adjust to that because, after the car accident, I had to take a lot of precautions. I wasn't hurt, thankfully, but, for precaution reasons, I had to sit around with a heart monitor on for a month and just couldn't really do a lot of sweating with it on and moving around. So it was like sit around for a month. And then a couple of months later, I have an issue with a blood clot, which had me sitting around. So it's been challenging, I did have some weight gain, still have some weight gain, but I did kind of come down some, but I'm still not down to the weight that I was pre-pandemic. So still working on that. And yeah, just lots of other stuff, So I'll let my wife talk about it from her perspective, and then we'll keep going. So
Sure. I mean, for me, it was a lot going on a lot has gone on over the past 2 years. You know, my last day in the office, I believe, was March 12th of 2020. And I think I remember it because I was just wrapping up a International Women's Day program at my job, and we weren't certain as to whether or not we'd even be able to have this big event in person, but we were able to pull it off. But right after the event, that's when we got notice that we had to work from home, and we thought we were only going to be working from home for probably, maybe a week or 2 weeks, and then this thing was going to be over, right? But little did we know, 2 years later, right?
yeah, I know, right?
We're still working from home. So for me, I mean, it's been a blessing as well as a challenge. And I say it's been a blessing because, I've gotten to spend 2 years bonding with my daughter. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been able to watch all of her first moments happen right before our eyes if it wasn't for the pandemic, right? We would have been hearing about certain things from her teachers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
From
Yeah.
the daycare teachers who had her throughout the day, like, oh, Olivia started walking today. And, we would have been just hearing stories about all of these moments, but we were able to see it
Yes.
firsthand.
Absolutely.
And it's been beautiful, right? Just to witness it and just to really bond with her and to, play with her during our lunch breaks or during the little breaks that we try to fit in throughout the day, even though sometimes it seems like there's no room in our schedule, right? But somehow we fit it all in. But it's been beautiful and it's been very challenging because both of us are working from home and we both have very busy schedules at work where we're on Zoom calls throughout the day. So it's been a juggling act, right? Trying to make sure that we stay coordinated, right? And check in at the beginning of the week to see what each other's schedules looks like, to see who's going to have our daughter at what time throughout the day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's just been so challenging because we're not at home with a teenager where we can just say, oh, go in your room and, shouldn't you be logged on, to school?
Yeah.
We had a 1-year-old at that time, right?
She wasn't in school.
She was very needy and
Yeah.
she wanted our attention and she wasn't in school and so we really needed to be very hands-on is what I'm trying to say. So we really felt like we had 2 jobs at the end of the day, Every minute of the day was consumed with having to do something, whether it was for work or parenting. And while it was beautiful, to watch all of those first moments happen, it was challenging because I'll speak for myself. I found very little time to do anything for me because work and your personal life really started to blend, right?
Yeah.
There was no clear divide. In the very beginning, I had my laptop set up and on my dining room table and, I'm working and then trying to cook in between, in between breaks at work and then trying to play with our daughter. And it just seemed like everything just started to blend. And then it seemed like the work days started to get longer and longer each day.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like we were calling it quits at 5 o'clock, and the next day 5:30, 6 o'clock, and before you know it, we found ourselves working till 9 o'clock some nights. So there was just no clear divide, and with that can eventually come burnout. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thankfully, I had a partner to go through the pandemic with, because without having you here by my side to help me throughout the challenging 2 years, oh man, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, I know. Well, I feel the same way because, listen, I know I could be agitated by things, especially being home. It's hard to keep things neat when you got a toddler running around and stuff. But, I think we took the challenge of trying to make sure that we gave her some room to be a child, but also knowing that for a certain period of time we had to be her teachers.
You're right.
Even more than we should, right? Or more than we expected to be at the time.
Absolutely.
Because we always should be her teachers. But I think, when you're in school most of the day, some of that burden is taken by the teachers.
You're right.
To teach them the numbers and letters and shapes and things.
Absolutely.
We listen. We had Sesame Street as our assistant teacher.
Flashcards going during our breaks. We're like, all right, time to pull out the flashcards. We got 15 minutes to spare. We got to make sure she's learning. Oh man, we played a dual role, right?
Yeah. We had Elmo was like our assistant teacher when we couldn't do it, right?
Elmo
so we
was
had
our
those
saving
DVDs
grace.
rocking, on standby at all times.
And
to
let me tell
teach
you,
them.
people say, oh, don't put your kid in front of the TV. I'm sorry, but over the past 2 years, it was a necessity for her to get some TV time. And I tell you, she learned a lot
Yeah.
through Sesame Street,
Yeah,
right?
those are
And the Elma,
educational
yes,
tools.
she really did.
Right. If we don't, we have to remember not the wrong TV, the right TV, right?
Yes,
The right TV stuff. You know, things that are going to enrich and learn. Because she was a sponge for every little thing,
yes,
and she learned a lot of that stuff by, you know, the books that we had, the flashcards and the DVDs. Like a lot of that stuff we used as educational material, just like
you're right.
a teacher would. You
It really
know.
helped to reinforce what we were doing with her.
Yeah, absolutely. So an important thing that we did and that a lesson learned is that we have to learn to pivot. I think that was a lesson that we learned through this whole period. And, you know, I made pivots, you know, through my businesses, you know, being, you know, my boxing business, not being in the gym. You know, we pivoted to being outdoors and online, actually, which, was something that we did, you know, in lieu of this, you know, gym closure. You know, no gyms were open, so people had to find an alternative. So we offered the alternative, and, you know, we had a good time and met some good people out of it as well. And then with the photography side, you know, really expanding on that business and really taking on other, you know, other jobs that would complement the business as well. You know, so I did some contract work with other companies, and I've expanded into, you know, doing weddings and doing food photography, and I'm getting, you know, optimized our own website. So now we get a lot of direct work and, you know, our own business. So, you know, you know, I'm glad we addressed it and really didn't get into a funk, I
You're
would
right.
say, you know. So I know, you know, you had transitions and work and stuff too. So, you know, talk about your side of it and how it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely new for me. So I went through a job transition in 2021. There was some fear there. There was nervousness, just uncertainty. So it definitely felt uncomfortable for me to step out and, you know, transition into a new industry. So I now work in the legal industry. But I just embraced it honestly with open arms. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to embark on this, and I'm going to make it a great opportunity for myself. I'm
Yeah.
going to make sure that I land on my feet, you know, and turn something that many may think is a negative into a positive,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it's all about, I guess, how you approach
Approach.
things, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the approach. So I took what I experienced in 2021 as an opportunity for me to really try something new. And I feel like I couldn't have done it if I didn't have strong belief in myself that I was going to be good regardless. And I'm so happy that I set out on this new journey, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
because I'm a happier person. You know,
Yeah.
this has really been a great move for me, and everything happens for a reason. I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to try something new and not let fear stop me or paralyze me. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the career transition has been quite interesting and surprising, because when you're at a place for so long, you start to feel like this is the end all be all. And it probably isn't going to get much better than where I'm at, right? Because you're in this bubble, in this cocoon.
Yeah.
And then when you break free from that and branch out, you're like, wow, the world is much bigger than what I had envisioned. And things aren't so bad outside.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I'm just happy that I believed in myself and took on the opportunity because things are good.
Things are good now. Yeah. It's important to prepare yourself to be uncomfortable at times, because sometimes we could get too comfortable that we don't see that there's more to us than just, you know, this one track of going down. because we'll lean on, making money, but we didn't lean on enough of personal happiness, or enough on personal development, or enough on taking a chance in a different area that may not pay the same thing that it used to pay, or maybe the opposite. You leaned on something that only paid this, but now if you leaned on something else that made you happy, it actually paid you more, right? And so it's just preparing yourself to just not be comfortable with just one track of mind. And like when things change, like you said, your approach to it matters. Glass half empty, glass half full,
You're right.
right? And so you could look at it and just go into a funk and complain and, this is not what I want, this is not what I want. Or you could say, well, this is presenting itself. What do I like about this? Or what could I make out of this? It's like a lump of clay sometimes. It's just like it looks ugly. It's just sitting there, but you can make it beautiful.
You're right.
If you want to.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes we need to just get in there. Sometimes we just want stuff presented to us packaged nice.
You're right.
But sometimes we got to create the package.
Absolutely.
We got to wrap it, right? Just like Christmas time, right? We got to wrap that shit up,
Yep.
It can't just come, wrapped. We bought it, we got it and it's unpackaged, but we got to package it up. We got to make it presentable. And then, we get more out of it that way. You know what I'm saying? So, yep.